What if the battle you've been avoiding is the very one that will define you? What if the thing that intimidates you the most is actually the doorway to your greatest victory? Today, we're stepping into one of the most powerful underdog stories ever told, the story of David and Goliath. And by the end of this, you may see your own giants very differently. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Now, imagine this. A wide valley stretches beneath a burning sun. Two armies stand on opposite hillsides. Shields glint, armor clinks. The air is thick with tension. And then, a figure steps forward. Massive, towering, covered in bronze armor from head to toe. His spear is enormous. His presence alone is enough to shake confidence. His name is Goliath, nearly 10 feet tall, a trained warrior since his youth. And for 40 days, morning and night, he walks into the valley and shouts the same challenge.
Come and face
Choose
me,
a
you
man
cowards!
to fight me.
Is there no
One
brave
man,
enough to
one
fight
battle.
me?
Winner takes all. And for 40 days, no one answers. Not because the army of Israel lacks swords, not because they lack numbers, but because they lack belief. Fear spreads quickly, faster than logic, faster than courage. Sometimes all it takes is one loud voice to silence an entire crowd. But far from that battlefield, in quiet fields where sheep graze peacefully, a young shepherd named David knows nothing of this standoff. David isn't a soldier. He isn't trained in war. He doesn't wear armor. He spends his days protecting sheep, playing music, watching the horizon. Yet in those quiet fields, he has already faced danger. A lion once attacked his flock, and he fought it. A bear threatened the sheep, and he stood his ground. Not because he was the biggest, not because he was the strongest, but because he believed he wasn't fighting alone. One day, David's father sends him to deliver food to his older brothers at the battlefield. It's supposed to be a simple errand. But the moment David arrives, he hears something. A roar from the valley. Goliath again. Mocking, defying, intimidating. David watches the army tremble. He sees trained soldiers, grown men stepping back in fear. And something inside him refuses to accept it. Who is this man, David asks, that he should defy the living God? Where others see an unbeatable giant, David sees a challenge that must be answered. His own brothers dismiss him. "You're just curious," they say. "Go back to your sheep." King Saul hears about the bold shepherd and calls him forward. David stands before the king and says something that shocks everyone.
My king, I can defeat the giant.
You are but a boy. How?
The Lord who saved me from the lion will save me from this
Saul
giant.
looks at him in disbelief. "You are only a boy," the king replies, "and he has been a warrior his whole life." And maybe that's the moment most people would shrink back. Maybe that's the moment self-doubt would creep in. But David remembers something. He remembers the lion. He remembers the bear. He remembers every time he thought he wouldn't survive, and did. "The Lord who delivered me before," David says, "will deliver me again." Confidence doesn't always come from size. Sometimes it comes from remembering what you've already overcome. Saul reluctantly agrees and places his own armor on David. A bronze helmet, a heavy coat of mail, a sword strapped at his side. David tries to walk. It's awkward, heavy, restricting. He stops, shakes his head. "This isn't me." He removes the armor piece by piece. Sometimes the reason we struggle is because we're trying to fight battles in ways that don't fit who we are. David chooses something simpler. 5 smooth stones, a sling, and faith. As he steps into the valley, Goliath sees him and laughs. "Am I a dog," the giant roars, "that you come at me with sticks?" The ground vibrates as Goliath moves forward. The armies hold their breath. But David does something unexpected. He doesn't hesitate. He doesn't walk cautiously. He runs. He runs toward the giant, toward the threat, toward the impossible. The sling begins to spin. Once, twice, faster, faster. And in a single, decisive motion, David releases the stone. For a brief second, time seems to freeze. Then, impact. The stone strikes Goliath in the forehead. The giant stumbles. The earth trembles. And the warrior who terrified a nation falls face first into the dust. Silence. Then disbelief. Then a roar from the army that once stood frozen in fear. The giant who silenced them for 40 days is silent. And everything changes. Not because the giant shrank, but because someone decided to stand. That's the power of courage. It spreads. One bold decision can awaken strength in everyone watching. But this story isn't just about ancient armor and slings. It's about you. Your giant might not stand in a valley with a spear. It might look like fear of failure. It might sound like self-doubt, whispering that you're not enough. It might feel like a situation so overwhelming you don't know where to begin. Giants don't always announce themselves loudly. Sometimes they live quietly in your mind. But here's what David teaches us. You don't need to be the biggest in the room. You don't need to fight like everyone else. You don't need someone else's armor. You need belief. You need clarity. And sometimes, you need the courage to run toward what everyone else is running from. Because giants fall every day. Not because they weaken, but because someone decides they will no longer stand in fear. So now I'll ask you the same question. What giant have you been avoiding? And what might happen if you faced it? If this story spoke to you, share it with someone who needs encouragement today. And tell us in the comments, what's the giant in your life right now? Because sometimes, one small step, one act of courage, one stone, changes everything.